All right, team, so today we're going to be working on the floors for the 68 Mustang Fastback. And this is like little tiny trivial stuff, but I found a couple of details that really can make a difference in a restoration, and it just piqued my interest that it's something I need to share with you. Just take a look at the difference in these parts. One is a cheap manufactured part, and the other is a more accurate part. Not all Mustang parts are created equal. Okay, so this is a really simple thing. You can call it a tip, you can call it a trick, whatever. We're trying to put Kilmat in the floor of this car. One thing I've been really cognizant of in doing on this restoration that I didn't do on the last one is, instead of like gooping it on super thick and like laying it in there, I did Deadener. The stuff's really thick, it's really heavy. So I decided to go with Kilmat and go with a little thinner version of it. Really, the whole idea is to just stop resonance, and it's like a cymbal. So as soon as you stick this butyl stuff to it, it immediately deadens the sound. Plus you have like little air pockets and all that in there, and all of that helps with acoustics. Secondly, you don't even need to coat the whole floor. A lot of people say just do squares of it. I'm gonna coat the whole floor because I think it'll also help as a heat barrier, and that's the only reason. Also, I think it looks more uniform and just really seals up the floor. Before I put anything on the floor, I'm gonna go ahead and scuff it lightly with a scuff pad, just to get the loose overspray and all, like it's all getting all over me, just because when we sprayed the interior, they didn't mask the floor. There's no reason to, right? So I'm just gonna give this a scuff and then clean it with acetone. That way we have a really good adhesion for the underlayment. Secondly, before I can even put that stuff down on the floor of the vehicle, I've got to put in these little floor drains. I got like 2 different seal kits. I've had these forever, and the first set I got, I realized like, the holes don't line up at all with the little screw holes. But then I realized they're not really the right shape, because I started looking at the assembly manual and I saw that there's like an embossment for them. So I don't know if these are maybe more correct for 65s or they're just a cheap reproduction part. But I went back and ordered with the right part number I believe these are Scott Drake again, but I ordered a nicer version of the floor pan drain plug. So according to the factory assembly manual, these go with the little embossment face up. You could put them down to be more svelte with the floor, but apparently stock, they are supposed to be face up according to the assembly manual. Now you can see the difference between these two pieces. One has this double embossment going, and the other is just a very simple flat stamped piece of steel. And the holes are super big, so I was just concerned about them letting moisture into the vehicle. And the great thing about the butyl backing, and this is another reason that I'm covering the entire floor, is it can act as a sealant. So, you know, if you have any moisture that wants to wick up, as long as this underlayment is pressed tight to the floor, it's not going to allow moisture to enter the vehicle at all. Super simple idea. The thing is, it's just one of those things I've never seen a video on, and I think people overlook and just don't really consider it. But I'm going to show you 2 more things about it that I think improves the overall setup. You know, they come with this big horsey Phillips head zinc hardware. I ran into an issue in the back where the screw was so long it ran into my subframe connector, because originally these cars didn't have subframe connectors and the screws would go straight through. The thing is, it's just going through the floor sheet metal, so you got about a ½ inch of like sharp pointed screw just sticking through the floor, and I wanted a cleaner look. So what I did is I went and invested in a little smaller gauge sheet metal screw, and it is a shorter sheet metal screw. And because these are new floors, the holes are not pre-drilled, or they're actually just tiny little pilot holes. They're like 1/8 inch pilot holes. At any rate, this nice stainless steel screw will go through there and it'll never rust. It won't encourage rust. Because this is gonna be a first class build, like it'll show really well, even though it's not meant to be a show car. I intend to correct all the mistakes I've ever made on a restoration and make this thing the ultimate Mustang. So that's why we're kind of going the extra mile, putting stainless hardware on this floor stuff, especially, you know, if it does get in the rain. This is the first part that will see any kind of moisture, so I want to make sure it's all buttoned up correctly. All right, so I'm going to start by just giving this floor a good scuff. You can see that there's so much overspray that just got left in the car. Could have been masked a little bit better, but it got a little light dusting of the charcoal gray interior paint. So before we lay this butyl down, for now, just going to give this a good little scuff. We'll come back and hit it with some acetone, and that will clean this up. On these cars, you can do it two different ways. You can use the butyl 3M strip caulk, or you can use seam sealer. I just decided to use the 3M stuff. I've had it forever. It's been sitting on a shelf. It's very workable, and it's kind of self-contained, and I'm not worried about spilling the stuff everywhere. So getting it cleaned up, I'm just gonna go up the side of the transmission tunnel and up to the toe board, a little bit up on the seat riser. That'll get it nice and clean before we install our floor plugs. Okay, so I've just wiped the whole thing down with acetone. Now the next step is to go ahead and place our floor drains. And I'm gonna grab my awl just so I can better line up the screw holes. They're a little like toed out. If I center it up, it's, you know, it's like you can get either one or the other in there. The other option is to drill a new pilot hole, which we can do that too. On the front floor pan, I might do it just because it's very exposed. But the first thing I'm gonna do is lay down some butyl. Okay, so this is it. This is the 3M strip caulk. It's just like Play-Doh for adults. And what I'm gonna do is take it and just adhere it to just the highest part of the little ridge that goes around the little oval opening here. Like I said, you can use seam sealer. I've seen people call for this stuff. I've seen people call for seam sealer. I think both probably work pretty well and are somewhat similar products. I wondered if you could even use like gasket maker. Which we're gonna do. Again, the factory manual shows the little dimple face up. And I'm sighting one of the screw holes, which means what I might need to do is drill a new one on this side. And I'm just pushing it down in here. And what's cool is it kind of like wicks out around it and forms a seal, almost a gasket, basically. If anybody's wondering what I'm talking about in terms of the 3M strip caulk, this is the stuff right here. It comes in a box, and when you open it up, it's on these little pull apart deals. It's just like a string of Play-Doh, and it's about that consistency when it's old. I've heard when this stuff is brand new, it's really hard to work with. It's real stiff, and as it ages, it kind of softens a little bit, but this is good and soft. It's been in the box for a year or two, maybe longer. You gotta clean it up with acetone to get it off your hands is the only thing. It's a little nasty that way. But you can check it out. It's made a nice little seal. Okay, so like I said before, I've switched out the hardware on this stuff. This was the hardware that actually came with it. I just didn't want all that screw sticking out underneath the floor. I'm not dealing with the original floors. These floors have been replaced, so it's like brand new sheet metal. So I can kind of put the hole where I want and use the hardware that I want. If you just have these and you're gonna use these guys, then you have to use this big, horsey, ugly hardware. I took the time to get the right stuff for this thing, and we're gonna use the nice stainless hardware. You can almost come up from underneath and find one of the holes for this setup. So got it spiked there, use the awl to get it, and now we're gonna drill one of them, and then I'll probably try to drill a new pilot hole for the other side, since it's just about about a 1/4 inch off from where it's drilled. All right, so I'm using a 7/64 drill bit, and I'm gonna get the back side here. There, I got a nice little pilot hole going. Now I'm gonna take my very nice stainless hardware and get the stainless in there. And then get the other side going. This is an impact drill, so it's a little heavy duty, so put lots of pressure on it. Yeah, now that's nice and tight. You can see it's kind of made it seal. You can go back and push this stuff down around it. And that'll keep that stuff from rusting, and it'll keep moisture from coming back through the floor. So basically this is gonna be a rinse and repeat situation for all 4 drains on the floor pans. Okay, so the next steps are just basically start putting the underlayment down. And you know, it's up to you how you wanna lay it in. I was gonna kind of start at the toe board and work my way back. So I'm gonna get it up there in that edge. Bring this little corner seam in here and just lay it lightly first, and then just kind of lay it out like that. Cool thing is I've got these little rollers that have ridges on it, and as you roll it in, it depresses these little bubbles in the Kilmat itself, these little like almost like bubble wrap bubbles. As you roll it, it adds these little ridges so you can kind of see where you've been and retrace your steps if you need to. And you can also see where the low spots are. Kind of get it down with your thumb. I do know with Dynamat, when I used my thumb, I used to cut the crap out of myself on the edge of the foil. So I do recommend wearing gloves. Kind of get down in these little drain ridges so that the butyl touches the metal. Now, one thing is cool, if you know anything about acoustics, air pockets actually help with sound deadening. And when sound gets trapped in an air pocket, it kind of reverberates inside that. So it actually helps deaden the sound when there are little air pockets in here. So it's up to you if you want to leave a couple or if you want to get it mashed tight. I'm just weirdly OCD, so I just kind of smush it all down. I got this little Amazon roller kit here too that kind of gives you some different tools. There's 3 different sizes. There's kind of the wide one, there's the medium one, and then there's also a really cool urethane one. The thing is, when you're trying to work it into a groove, this little narrow one works pretty well. It actually helps go mush it down into the groove. Here's the other thing to know. If you're putting in Kilmat, Dynamat, Boom Mat, Hush Mat, any of the mats that have that butyl backing, this stuff is never coming out. Not without a ton of work, a heat gun, and a whole lot of mess. So heads up, once it's in, I wouldn't go trying to remove it. Made an observation here. I can just line this stuff up better by figuring out where that hole wants to be. That one's going to go right into the subframe connector, so I may just put one on it and let it just sink down in. This one, let's see how close these pilot holes are. Fairly close. Yeah, not really. Just a little off. See what that looks like. I'm just gonna make that closer to that hole, and then I'm gonna drill those out like before I put them together and before I lay the goop down. That way it's already set to go. This one goes into the subframe connector. I don't really think I want to put a hole there into that piece of metal. And do this one. There's a little extra holio there. This one I'll just cinch that down. That should seal it fine. With the butyl over it, it's gonna be fine. Next, we're gonna lay in the 3M junk. go, just smush a little of that around. I do feel like this is kind of a cleaner solution than seam sealer. I think seam sealer makes a big old mess. This stuff never dries, so you can pull it off, kind of scrape it off, and re-stick it if you need to. But I'm going just on the edge of that crest there. This gets a good seal going all the way around. And then make sure if you overlap it, you know, mush it together. Just give it a little more overlap over that hole. This one I'm just going to go on the inside of because I want the water to seal around that. So there we go. So I'm going to smush this stuff down. Let it get a good seal. Mash it down. And that's ready for screw hole. And this one, since I can see the screw holes in it, I'm just gonna loosely line it up. I'm gonna screw it in and let that pressure push the caulk out. Let that draw it down. Smushed it pretty good. Anyway, it's a very simple install. It's just one of those things that could easily be underdone, and I wanted to make sure we did it right. I think these laid in nicely. You might do it a different way. This is the way I chose to do it. Nice stainless hardware. Put the detents face up. That's how they're supposed to be according to the manual. And I used the 3M strip caulk to seal it, which I think will give it a nice seal, honestly. I mean, you could go back over it with seam sealer if you really wanted to, but again, once the butyl sound deadener goes over top of it, I don't think moisture or anything's gonna get through it. So again, this car is not gonna see a ton of rain, honestly. This is gonna be one of those garage kept, really nice 68 fastbacks. We're gonna drive the piss out of it, don't get me wrong, but we're gonna make it one of the nicest fastbacks that is driven like it's been stolen.